My father abandoned me as a child and fled to another country with his lover, and now that I won the lottery, he returns and demands that I give him half of the money. My mother has always been an amazing person in my life, and to some extent, my father as well. He used to play with me, give me attention, take me out, etc. Everything was normal in our lives, and I loved him. However, everything changed at one point. I remember that at a certain time, my parents argued every day because my father was coming home from work late at night. My mother already knew he was cheating on her, but she couldn't leave him since he was practically the sole provider for our family. But eventually, he left us. He just left a note on the table saying he felt he was wasting his life raising a family, and now he was going to another country with his lover, and we shouldn't look for him. Obviously, this shook me a lot, but not to make my mother sad, I pretended I didn't care. It was very tough times, my mother had to work 2 jobs to support me, and we depended on donations just to survive. But eventually, everything improved. When I finished high school, I received a scholarship that allowed me to attend college for free. Additionally, I got a good job with the recommendations of my professors. After many years, my mother could finally stop working 2 jobs, and we were finally happy and stable. By this point, I hadn't heard from my father in years, and honestly, I no longer cared. To me, he was just a man who abandoned my mother and me without a second thought and wasn't a real father to me. The big problem started last month. I always had the habit of buying lottery tickets as I enjoyed the feeling, but I never really expected to win anything. But to my surprise, that day, I won. At first, I thought it might be something like $100,000, which would already be an incredible amount for me. However, when I went to cash the ticket, the attendant told me that the prize had accumulated to just over $3 million. I celebrated with my mother, quit her job, and essentially retired her. I also bought a more comfortable house for us, and the rest of the money, I save and invest to ensure we never face difficulties again. The problem is that, returning home, I find a strange car parked at our door. I thought it might be a friend of my mother's, so I didn't think much of it and just entered the house. To my surprise, it was my father. He started crying, hugged me, but I simply had no reaction because, in my mind, he was just a stranger. I asked what he was doing there, and he said he came to visit me because he wanted to talk to me about some things. I noticed my mother wasn't at home, so I asked how he got in, and he said the door was open, so he just came in, saying it didn't matter since he was family. Before I could say anything, he said he knew I had won the lottery and mentioned he was going through some difficulties. His son wanted to go to college, but he didn't have enough money to pay for both college and buy a house for his son near the college. He hoped I could donate the money for him to do both. I laughed and said it wasn't possible. After all these years, he really thought I would give my money for him to take care of another child when he never took care of me. At that moment, he stood up and started yelling, as if scolding me, but he didn't expect me to stand up and do the same. I told him he meant nothing to me, and he had no right to say anything to me in my own home. He tried to respond, but I just shouted louder, telling him to leave now, or I would call the police. He left, but he found my number and continues to send me messages, saying that I would give him half of my money one way or another because that was the right thing to do. Honestly, I don't know what to do for him to just go away again, and I don't know what he's capable of. You can now check if there's a part 2 by pressing share and more.